USC Coliseum Chronicles Live. My co-host Casey Kaslner was supposed to introduce us there, but he missed the mark.
What are you talking about?
Okay. All
Anyways,
right.
happy Halloween. Happy
But
Halloween,
happy
everybody.
Halloween. We're both in costume coming from our show, The Water Cooler, here at USC. Shameless plug. But Casey, we are talking Nebraska USC. Everything else has really gone through. It's been talked about. Don't feel I need to touch on other things. So it's USC Nebraska. Not a lot of injury reports and updates, positive updates, I should say, coming in this week. Still nothing from Elijah Page. That kind of sucks. But we're talking Nebraska and UCLA. I don't know why I said UCLA, but Casey, I'm wondering what concerns you have. We're going to be negative, I think, going into this game.
I mean, look, I think the tough part is you're playing on the road in a blackout game.
Yeah.
But I think I will be positive, though. I think, last time SC was coming off a bye week, they played well, again in their next game after that loss against, Illinois. They geared up and beat Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
I think they can do the same this week. I mean, I watched pretty much all of the Nebraska versus Northwestern game. That was just a weird game, just a lot of big plays. And, Nebraska, I think, the tough part is they have a running back that resembles, Jeremiah Love a little bit. Not good, but Emmett Johnson has some of those traits. He can break tackles. He's a big guy. Their offense obviously has the tools, and I think more tools than last year when USC played them at the Coliseum. And their defense is also really solid. That being said, though, we saw them lay an egg a few weeks ago against Minnesota and not score a single touchdown, in that game. So I honestly think I'm pretty optimistic about this game. And I think, too, like we hear all this talk about the college football playoff, but a game like this, kind of, every game going forward, but this one in particular, if you lose this game, your playoff chances are down the drain. Whereas, if you win this game, you still have a chance. So I think that's going to be motivating USC.
Yeah, I do think it's kind of like a gateway game for USC because obviously if they lose, they're out. They're not making the playoff. Guarantee it. If they were to win, it builds momentum back up because then you hit Northwestern, Iowa, the big one at Oregon, which obviously you're going to need to win, and then UCLA, of course. So I think if you win this, it builds momentum for the rest of the year, which can be drawn upon. If they lose, season is over, and I think it's possible the players might quit. And
Yeah.
I have long said that they are going to lose this game. Since the start of the year, said that they were going to lose this game. And Nebraska came into this with a very similar. I said that they could be a one-loss, maybe even undefeated going into this. Two-loss team. They are also somehow in the playoff hunt. They technically are, whether you like it or not, they are. There is a path, I guess. But they are not a good team. I'm just going to say that. They're not that great a team. And USC, I still think, is going to lose this game because Lincoln Riley cannot coach on the road, because it's a blackout, because they are just so bad on the road. Weather is not going to be a major factor. I was looking at it, it's going to be like 50 and like mildly sunny, breezy. It'll get
I don't know about that. I've
not
heard
sunny, but it'll be night.
I heard it's like a high of 48, but wind can make it feel like it's going to be more like in the lower 40s, maybe even the 30s.
Okay, but it's not going to like rain, is what I'm really saying.
But it's cold though. Like Notre Dame wasn't that cold. It was just raining. Like I think the cold is tough.
Yeah, but I mean, I'd much rather play in the cold than the wind or the rain, excuse me. And once again, this goes back to our point of everyone said that the weather wouldn't matter preseason when we talked about this, and
here we are.
But Nebraska is a very talented team. I don't think it's hard to tell about Matt Rule whether he has one foot out the door or not. I think he's trying. I don't think he does because he needs to prove himself if he wants that Penn State job, which I don't think he gets.
No.
But he needs to prove that he can actually win games. This is a pretty big game for them at home, the blackout. They need this to stay alive in the playoff consideration, whether you like it or not. The two-loss Big Ten team, they could be in contention. I don't think they'll make it, but they could be. Dylan Raiola saw it. It's Emmett Johnson who is the concern for me. He has over 700 yards rushing. As Casey,
over 800.
What?
Over 800 yards.
Oh, I didn't notice it. Casey, as you mentioned, he doesn't really resemble Jeremiah Love as like a player type, but he's still a great running back. and USC has not really been able to stop those yet. You can kind of point to Michigan, but Justice Haynes obviously got hurt. So
They also, another thing with Nebraska is they have receiving depth,
yeah,
which was something they didn't necessarily have a whole lot of last year. I mean, talk about Isaiah Hunter, Cal transfer. He leads the team in reception yards, but they have, 5 guys that Raiola consistently looks to. And Emmett Johnson's one of them. He's a pretty good receiving back himself.
Yeah.
Lindenmeyer, the tight end, is very solid. 2 touchdowns on the year. Dane Key,
yeah.
He has 4 touchdowns. They have a lot of weapons at their disposal. And, Raiola is the type of quarterback that we saw. I think he's kind of similar to Maava in some ways. They both kind of have that style of extend the play, sometimes hold on to the ball too long. Yeah. I do think my biggest thing for USC this week and Jade Maava specifically is they got to get Jade Maava involved in the run game a bit more and a lot more because
I don't want to see, and this is not disrespect to him, but I don't want to see a lot of Hassan Longstreet packages. It's predictable. Yeah. We know they're going to run the ball.
I mean, we know Jaden can throw and we know he can run, but he hasn't run a whole lot this year. And I think a lot of that was because, those first few weeks up until a couple of weeks ago, USC had, one of the best rushing attacks in the Big Ten, and if not the country. And, King Miller and Brian Jackson are serviceable, but I don't rely on them on the road to do a whole lot. And so I think Jane Maava is going to have to, roll outside the pocket, extend the play, and resemble sort of what, he was sought out for. And that's his legs and his ability to be smart. And we've seen some of that from him this year. But, I mean, I want to ask you, because we talked about Dylan Raiola, and USC saw him last year and did a pretty good job of containing him for what it was worth. USC did win that game last year against Nebraska, but it was at home, kind of, late in the season, not quite this time last year. But what's the key for USC this week defensively?
Defensively? Oh, okay. It's going to be limit them to just Emmett Johnson, I think, because I'm just going to be real. I don't think they're going to stop him. I don't think that of what I have seen from this team, I don't think they're going to be able to stop Emmett Johnson. So I think if you can hold it to just him, then they will have a chance to win this game. Because if you force Dylan Raiola to throw the ball more, then I think that's a lot better. And the secondaries look better. Look, CJ Carr was not good last week, or 2 weeks ago, excuse me. That is why they could have won that game. I'm not going to say almost because they didn't almost, but that's why they could have won that game. They were torn apart on the run game by Jeremiah Love and Kadarian Price, but I think that, or Jadarian, excuse me. But I think Nebraska, they have a worse quarterback, they have a worse receiving core, and they have a worse running back. So if you limit them to just that run game, it's a lot more likely you can get more stops in the ground, just in general.
And I think too, like we talk about Nebraska defense, and their passing defense is pretty solid. The rushing defense hasn't.
Pretty solid. They're the number 2 pass defense in the country.
Well, yeah, but you have to put that into context. They haven't played a whole lot of teams that are that good. Let's be honest.
I guess, yeah. I mean, Maryland can Malik Washington can throw the ball,
and yeah, but that's the only quality win, though. I mean, their rushing defense is not good, though. It's 15th in the Big Ten. And a couple weeks ago, I mean, Darius Taylor is one of the best running backs in the conference. But I look at that game because, if Nebraska wins that game against Minnesota, they're still ranked. They gave up 148 yards to Darius Taylor, including a 71-yard rush. And Drake Lindsey had a pretty good game, 94 QBR in that game. I mean, their defense is fine. It's solid. But is it going to show up against a ranked opponent? I mean, this is Nebraska's only chance to get a ranked win this year. They're playing UCLA next, Penn State, Iowa. None of those teams are going to be ranked.
Yeah.
So this is a huge game for their defense. And I think, honestly, just being at home, being in a blackout game, there's going to be 90,000 people there. Their defense is going to get some favors from the crowd and stuff, but and the cold weather that Nebraska's more used to. And, Raiola was talking. He said, I hope it's cold, to sort of rattle USC a bit. But I don't know. I think I do worry a bit about USC, communication-wise on the road. We've seen so many miscues, and I actually talked to Bishop Fitzgerald this week in practice because everyone says in practice every week, like on the defensive side of the ball, Danton Lynn says it, the cornerbacks say it, the D-line, the linebackers, they all say it. Communication is the number one thing, but we still haven't seen it improve. No. Every single week there's been blown coverages, there's been breakout runs by the opposing team. And so I asked him, like, what does that exactly mean? And he didn't really have a clear answer for it because he didn't want to say, but also I don't really think this team on defense knows how to communicate. And I think a lot of that is because they're relying on transfers, especially in the secondary, with a guy like Bishop Fitzgerald, who is very solid, but, young guys too, like a guy like Braylon Conley. Like there's young guys who just haven't been accustomed to this defense. And offensively too, I mean, Jade Mayaba, I think, has been a very good communicative QB, but I think at the same time, we've seen missed reads. Like he, as any quarterback would make, but you're going to have to play pretty perfect in this type of environment to not to just to get a win, but to get a statement victory.
Yeah, they desperately need this win because you win this. I think at a minimum, you're going 9-3. Both Iowa and Northwestern are actually pretty decent teams, but I think that because you win this, you got the momentum, and you don't have to go to Kinnick Stadium, and you don't got to go to. Well, I'm not going to say Northwestern's a hard place to play, but it gets cold there, especially this time of year. And I think this is, like I said, it's a gateway game, and I think. I've long said USC is going to lose this game. I do still think they lose this game because of those miscommunications you talked about, because of the fact that they are just not good on the road and have not been able to play in the Midwest.
I want to ask you this because, just regarding this show, I know
we got some focusing on here. Welcome.
We're focusing on this week specifically, but it's hard for me to not bring up the Oregon game because I feel like none of this matters at all. We know that USC, according to ESPN FPI, USC has like a 24% chance of beating Oregon, which would be maybe expected. But do you think USC has, and I know it's weeks away, right? So it may not be worth even talking about, but I'm curious, do you think USC has any sort of shot against Oregon?
Yeah. So, I'm from Oregon. All my friends go to the University of Oregon. I've been talking a lot of trash, Casey, and it's it's going to come back and bite me in the ass. But I've been talking a lot of trash more just because, I guess I will. I think this team is a lot better than the one in 2023 when they last went to Eugene. I think at a minimum, they're going to give Oregon a scare. And I think, keep it close in the fourth quarter. It wasn't really they lost by 9 last time. It was a 2-touchdown game the entire time. So I feel like at a minimum, they'll give them a scare. I don't think they're going to win.
Yeah.
If I don't think they're going to win at Nebraska, I'm not going to say I think they can win at Oregon.
Yeah, that was also Caleb Williams' team too. He could keep USC in any sort of game, which I guess the same could be said about
flop Caleb Williams on this team. I think Jaden's been great, but Heisman Trophy Caleb Williams is a different breed. So
I think one thing that Lincoln Riley's preached that I definitely agree with is there's a few guys on this USC team that, and this can circle back to Nebraska. There's a few guys on this team that can will USC do a win sometimes, and Jaden Mayava is one of them. Makai Lemon is another one of them. Yep. I would have said Wayman Jordan, but he's injured. Defensive side of the ball guy like Eric Gentry or Kamari Ramsey, but I just feel like those guys are going to have to step up because we know. We've talked about it, and there were people in our comments who adamantly disagreed with us when we were talking about Makai Lemon.
Yeah.
It's no dig on Makai Lemon, but he's just being guarded more heavily than he was week 1, week 2, week 3.
Yeah. If anything, it shows how much better he is than people thought and how much more respect he's garnering.
Yeah, we had people saying to us, people aren't double teaming Makai Lemon. They absolutely were. There were people in space, maybe not necessarily playing 2 man-to-man coverage guys on him, but there was guys in space.
They're layering the coverage. So
they're layering the coverage, exactly. Yeah. And so, yeah, again, Makai doesn't have to necessarily face a guy like Leonard Moore this week, but they're going to be keeping an eye on 6, and not to say that, and I think the thing that makes Makai Lemon so special is even when he is guarded so heavily, he still has good games. He didn't play poorly at all against Notre Dame. He had a solid game, and they actually got, Tanuk Hines more involved, which I thought was good. And Lake McCree had that early touchdown, but I think it's all about consistency. I think it's sort of a cliche, but these guys, a lot of them are really present in the first half, and then the second half of games, you don't really see them a whole lot. I think Tanuk Hines was one of them, and I don't really trash on him too much because he's a freshman.
Yeah,
and he was kind of thrust into that role, but I think that logic could be applied to a guy like Jacoby Lane. We talked about it a bit last week. There were some big drops in that Notre Dame game. And he's a very talented receiver. The size, the frame, the hands are there, but that can't happen. And I know the weather will be better, but it's still going to be a very hard place to play, as you know, Terrence. I mean, you think USC is going to lose, so I know you agree with me there, but a lot of people don't think that that's a factor. This is I know the blackout, like, what does that actually mean? But it means that people are going to have a certain type of energy. It's Halloween weekend.
Yeah,
Like,
whenever you do a anything out, when it's a whiteout or blackout, people are going to be energized.
this reminds me of Illinois a bit because, it's Illinois is not known to have like the greatest atmosphere in the conference, but it was their homecoming weekend. They packed the stands, they had the intangibles on their side. It was a 9 a.m. Pacific kickoff. Like, this to me feels like there's elements of that. The fact that it's on the road, it's, a big weekend just for students in general. It's a blackout game. Nebraska is
Yeah,
a great football town, or, Lincoln, you know what I mean? So, it's hard. It's hard. It's tough.
yeah, it's a tough road environment. USC favored. Do you know the line?
I think 6.5.
Yeah, 6.5. Line is 6.5. I very much think that USC is the better team, 100%. I have seen this time and time again. When USC, whether it is Lincoln Riley in the offense or the defense, when they need to go win the game on the road, they cannot do it. And it's whether it's play calling, whether it's the little things in between on the field, they do not win the game.
I want to ask you too, because I think this is like a conversation that's been
I wish this were true. I wish this were true. This has not been true the last 2 years. I wish it were true.
Maybe during the Pete Carroll era.
Yeah. We love seeing Nebraska fans in our chat, though.
Yeah, we appreciate. I feel like we get a lot of opposing fans sometimes,
which is kind of fun. Yeah.
So
those Michigan guys never showed up, by the way.
Yeah, no, they were scared. One thing I want to ask you, because I feel like this was not brought up a lot last year because it was his first season at USC, but Danton Lynn, I think gets a lot of praise for good reason. He's a very good teacher, is what I've heard in practice. He developed a guy like Kamari Ramsey into, I don't know if he's necessarily a day one pick anymore, but he's probably a fairly high draft pick. He's not having his greatest season, but he's still the point's not about Kamari Ramsey. The point's about Danton Lynn. He's a great teacher. He's a mastermind of the defense in terms of developing guys. We've seen him improve USC. But, we can't shy away from the fact that USC's defense has been their weak spot this year.
Yeah.
Part of that is because, their offense is so good. But, I think Danton Lynn, from the USC fan standpoint, doesn't get a lot of blame for these types of games when, again, Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price, collectively rushing for 300-plus yards.
Yeah.
And, USC hasn't really proven itself defensively this year a whole lot. You could say Michigan only holding them to 13 points, but Michigan's best offensive asset is Justice Haynes. They don't really have that many good receivers. And, so I feel like, what's your read on Danton Lynn, however many games we are in, 8 games?
Yeah. Yeah, look, I have been a lot more critical of Lincoln Riley. Like, in hand up, I've been a lot more critical of Riley, done exactly what you have said, where fans are more critical of Riley than they are Lynn. I'll be critical of Lynn because the defense 100% has regressed. I do accredit a lot of it in the past at least, I've accredited it to Lincoln Riley and just his philosophies, how he doesn't have these tough teams. The regression we have seen from Lynn is a little weird. Like, this guy going into the season was like, USC extended him because he was a prime, take over some job as a head coach position. I don't really think he's on many short lists anymore because USC's defense last year was definitely, honestly, the strong spot. And this year, they're just not good again. The rush defense is in the mid-50s. The pass defense is in the mid-70s, I want to say. NCAA website's down, so I don't have it on me right now. But they've regressed in basically every way. And it's like, it's not as bad as the Grinch era. Someone said it was. That's just not true.
Yeah, I agree with you.
They were in the mid 100 teens when Grinch was in. I just think it's really weird, and I don't really understand it. Whether maybe it's too many transfers, maybe it's the talent isn't there. I don't really know what it is because it should be better.
It's the transfers, I think. Bishop Fitzgerald, I'm just going to say it, is the only consistent defensive transfer on this team.
Yeah.
Keyshawn Silver, not good. To be honest, Tamir Robinson, okay, physical guy, but you just haven't seen a whole lot from him this year. DJ Harvey, not good.
Not good.
Kennedy Urlacher, not ready for a big role yet.
He's too.
DeCarlos Nicholson, I know he's not.
He's
not a new. He's not necessarily. I think he's a guy that gets flack sometimes. I think he's solid sometimes. He has,
our best corner, which is really saying something.
yeah, it took me a moment to think about that because I'm like, he's solid, but would he be good on a different team? Kevin Longstreet, not very good. Jaw Jarrett, he's moved down the depth chart quite a bit ever since that pick six he had.
Yeah, I mean, like after the first couple weeks when they stopped playing cupcakes, the defensive line really stopped getting sacks outside of that Michigan game. They weren't really getting any push against Notre Dame whatsoever. Definitely not on the run, but not really on the pass either. Like that one's, I think Cameron Crawford had that one sack, and it was because CJ Carr spun into him.
Yeah, I mean, like the edges have been really good still, I think.
Yeah, like Anthony Lucas, I still think is good. I still think Jakeem Stewart's going to be great, whether he's in that D tackle or defensive end position. He's still a true freshman, so I do think he's going to be good, though. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, and I mean, I think I've had this conversation with you before, and I think we've talked about it here. But I mean, there's a reason why these guys transfer out of SEC schools and start right away at USC.
Yeah,
like it's just the reality. That could be applied to Silver and Jarrett. It's they're good football players. They have their moments, but it's just not. They're not consistent enough. And yeah, I think the offense. We talked a little bit about it, but I want to just shout out the O-line a bit though, because they've done a very solid job, even without the starting tailback group that we're so used to with Jordan and Sanders. But I think Alani Noah has been great. Even this team has had to navigate no Killian O'Connor, Elijah Page being out, and they've done a really solid job.
No, I actually completely agree with that. For the injuries to the offensive line, if you really look into like July. Because they thought that John Ray Reed was going to be not John Ray Reed, excuse me. DJ Wingfield was going to be starting offensive lineman. Realistically, if you think about that, USC has lost since July 3 starting offensive linemen, and they've still been pretty good to their credit. So I think that is super impressive. Just that the fact that they have not been bad at all. Mayava got sacked more times last night than he had all season. Was that right?
I think so.
He was sacked 3 times going into that game. He was sacked at least once or twice, so maybe not the whole season. I think, like I said, rain was a huge factor, and that's not great. It's another reason I think they lose to Oregon because the saying at Autzen Stadium, it never rains at Autzen Stadium because it always rains at Autzen Stadium. I don't even necessarily think Oregon is that great a team. I think they're going to sneak into the playoff because they played nobody. Unless USC were to somehow win that game, and then I think they lose to Washington. But
to Oregon's credit, I mean, for how good Indiana is to only lose by 10.
Yes, but it was at home, and like 3 weeks later, they could not put up points on Wisconsin.
Yeah, no, I agree with you in that regard. And I honestly, there's other games I pick out. Even the Oregon State game, I know they won by like 34, but I feel like
they have not been good in the first half of games.
Yeah, that game was close at half. They haven't proven themselves.
Penn State, they didn't played Penn State. Penn State's not a good team.
Yeah, but they were ranked number 3 at the time, which will help them inevitably. Yeah, which I agree with you there, but I don't think like the voters will care or the CFP committee. But I mean, we talk about Oregon because that's the biggest roadblock in the way. That's really the only massive roadblock in the way of the playoff. I mean, every other opponent USC is playing is unranked. So
yeah, if you were to substitute Oregon for, just trying to think of like a Minnesota, they lost to Minnesota last year, but a Minnesota, who else haven't they played? Washington. No, not Washington. I don't want to play Washington. I'll say Wisconsin. Wisconsin's not good, but just say middle tier Maryland. You substitute them for a Maryland or a bad Big Ten team, I think USC is going to the playoff.
Yeah,
like this right here is that game, and I think they're a lot more motivated because of it. I want to see this right here because, if I think Nebraska is going to be able to run the ball, I don't think that's going to be a massive problem. Notre Dame ran the ball. I knew they were going to be able to run the ball, and they ran it so much better than I thought they'd be able to. So Nebraska, Emmett Johnson, he's going to run the ball.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, to your point about Oregon, like if we're looking at atmospheres being a problem, like I'd say Oregon and Notre Dame are pretty comparable. And
Yeah.
like not to like quote Lincoln Riley, but I mean, to USC's credit, they were a few dumb mistakes away from beating few dumb mistakes prevented away from beating Notre Dame. Like I don't I
Yeah, but
think
that's the same excuse every time. At
I
one
know,
point,
I know it is. I know it is. But the only thing I can give Lincoln Riley credit for is his two road losses were against really good teams. Like, whereas last year, you lost on the road to Maryland, you lost on the road to Minnesota, you lost on the road. I mean, keep going. The only credit I can give him is you have that same excuse, and I'm not saying the excuse is valid, full disclosure. I think it's a dumb thing when he says that every time. But the one thing that slightly makes it more valid is those losses were not only very close, but against top tier teams, top ranked teams. If you can, they got it. They were so close against Illinois. They weren't necessarily closer against Notre Dame, but they were equally. I'd say they were equally as close. I mean, he lost by 2 points against Illinois on a last second field goal. You lost against Notre Dame because of some dumb plays. If you can somehow prevent one of those mistakes from happening against Oregon, who I know is a better team than Illinois and Notre Dame,
yeah.
the atmosphere is almost out of the equation because you've already been on the road for, I'd say, two really tough environments,
Yeah.
and now three with Nebraska. So
Yeah. Nebraska, they should not lose to Nebraska. They really shouldn't. And I think they're going to. I think they should, honestly, I think they should win this game by 10 points. If they win this game by 10 points, I'm like, yeah, okay, you know what? Maybe they could give Oregon like a very solid scare and like give them some concerns. I just don't see that happening. That's just the issue.
I think USC will beat Nebraska, but I don't think they'll cover. I think they'll win like 24-20. It'll be like a mid-sized scoring game. I mean, I know great teams cover, right? So take that as you will, but I think USC will win. Personal prediction.
Yeah. Mike, our D line may be big. They are not good. The edge rushers are good. It's the interior has not been fantastic. I don't see a way we beat Oregon. Even though they don't look fantastic. Casey, we're kind of wrapping things up here. Kind of a quick show today, but I am feeling 31-27 Nebraska.
Okay, interesting. So
I think people are going to get on me in the comments like Nebraska's not putting up that many points.
Yeah, I mean,
they very much can.
They're a very hit or miss team. Like I think that's the way I describe them.
Notre Dame and Illinois are both red zone stupid turnovers away from putting up 40 plus on USC each.
No, I agree with you. I agree to some extent, but I think the same has happened on both sides. Maybe not against Illinois, but I think against Notre Dame, like there were some dumb things that USC did that, that favorably went in Notre Dame's way.
Yeah.
I will say too, I mean, back to Nebraska, I think they're a very hard team to read. Like they put up 6 against Minnesota and then 28 against Northwestern. I think like
Northwestern's not bad. They got look, I'll bluntly say it. Nebraska got the shit kicked out of them by Minnesota. And Minnesota is not a great team.
No, one of the best running backs in the conference, but Drake Lindsay is not that good.
They have some good players like Coy Parrish, I think is fantastic. But like there's so many there's so much where they should be winning. Nebraska should be going in this game 7-1 and ranked. Instead, they're 6-2.
And Raiola hasn't thrown for more than 200 in a couple weeks. He hasn't thrown for more than 200 since Maryland, which that's their best win of the season.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
no, wait, no, definitely not. Nebraska, Cincinnati.
Oh yeah, I mean in conference, okay, conference win of the season. Yeah, Cincinnati, but again, that was so long ago. It was a neutral site game. Like I don't know, I don't put that much stock into it, but again, conference-wise, they haven't really played the good competition yet. This is their chance to go on a run if they want to. I think USC wins. I think Maiava is going to get the job done. He needs to use his legs more. Again, you need to utilize Jacoby Lane when you don't have Mekhi Lemon, because I feel like, too, like one thing I noticed a lot from Notre Dame was there were some really good throws by Maiava that were either close to being a catch or a catch.
Yeah.
But there was always plays where he was forcing the double coverage when there was a guy short, for a button hook wide open. Like
Yeah.
not that that was going to necessarily give you 20 yards, but they need to just take what they're going to get, especially when you don't have a run game that's that good right now without your top two. You have to take what Nebraska's defense is going to give you. And the same could have been said about Notre Dame. They didn't do that a whole lot down the stretch, and that's why they lost. So I think they need to do that more.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I just think I see Nebraska running all over them and USC not utilizing the run enough or just passing too much in general. I think back to that Washington game at literally the exact same time this year,
I was
where
there.
Washington had the best pass defense in the country. Miller Moss throws it 50 times. Like, I
also threw 3 interceptions. Like, yeah. I just don't think Miami's going to do that. But
yeah, but like maybe Lincoln Riley learns from his mistakes, but I can't imagine that's true.
Yeah, I mean, that game, it does kind of remind me of this weekend a bit. I mean, I was actually at that game, and
yeah,
I think too, the tough part is like it was weird because their running back room last year was so good, and he still threw it 50 times. Whereas now, like, if Mailava threw it 50 times this weekend, is it crazy to say I wouldn't like bat an eye at it? Really? I mean, like,
bat an eye, I'd be annoyed. I mean, like, but
yeah.
at the same time, like the running backs, like, gotta get it.
Yeah, I mean, I think Brian Jackson's a huge X factor too. Like, I think he's a guy that we've expected to be big, and I know he's been hurt, but he needs to break out at some point.
Yeah, I agree. But all right, Casey, that's going to do it for us here at Coliseum Chronicles Live. We've both given our score predictions. I'm really hoping I'm not vindicated again because I am currently perfect on my predictions for this team, and I hate it so much. So, yep, we will see you guys back to our regular scheduled programming on Monday, likely. But thank you all for tuning in. Mike, Nebraska fans, we've had some very peaceful interactions with you guys. So, good luck to you both. Good luck to you guys on Saturday, and we will see you later.